Hello, everybody. We get serious now as we're going to be talking about the Oregon Ducks as the 2014 National College Previews continues for yours truly. And the reason why we say serious is because a lot of people feel that Oregon not only capable of winning the Pac-12, but also being one of those four selections for the inaugural college football playoff. Remember, it's a four-team playoff, and a lot of people think that Oregon will get there, and there's probably some that think that they can win the whole thing and dethrone Florida State as the national champion. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, last year, a lot of people had Oregon picked to win the Pac-12. And you know you're at one hell of a program when you win 11 ball games, lose only 2, and as far as offense, total offense goes, you're in the top 10 in the country in many offensive categories. Yet, this team did not win the North last year, did not win the Pac-12 in general. So by Oregon standards, didn't quite hit the mark, although 11-2 at a lot of places would be acceptable. But considering what Oregon had in mind as far as goals, didn't quite achieve them, so they're getting another shot this year with most of their offensive talent from a year ago back. Let's talk about the big threat, though, and that is Marcus Mariotta, whom some feel that if he had left after last year to go to the NFL, could have been as high as the #1 overall pick in the draft. A quarterback that's extremely accurate, makes good decisions, but it's his speed in the open field that makes him even more of a dangerous quarterback. He's only been there 2 years, but Mariota has already accounted for over 6,300 total yards. By the way, 1,400 yards of that is on the ground. And by the way, well over 75 touchdowns for his career, passing or running. And yeah, feeling this guy's career, is not quite done yet as far as achievements. Got hurt latter part of the season, I believe it was the Arizona game, that gruesome injury, but he's healthy, ready to go now. The reason why Oregon scored so many points last year, second most in the country, 45 a game, is because it's not all about Mariota. You focus on just him, you're going to get killed if you're a defense. Backfield's loaded. Byron Marshall, Thomas Tonyer, the one-time 5-star high school recruit, they're back. They averaged over 6 yards per carry, and there's a freshman threat by the name of Royce Freeman. So backfield's going to be dangerous, quarterback's dangerous. Receiving core, that remains to be seen if they're going to be dangerous because they lost their best receivers. And they lost a guy that they thought they would have this year to a torn ACL in Brandon Addison. So now you got Keenan Lane, who figures, at least for the beginning of the season, to be the reliable one, even though he only had 18 catches. But again, that's how many receivers Oregon lost last year that contributed. So you have Lane, 18 catches a year ago, but 3 of them were touchdowns. Speed won't be a problem for the Oregon receivers because Devin Allen, who won the national championship at the track and field, championships, 110-meter hurdles, they got him at a wideout. Again, just needs that experience. You also have Dwayne Stanford as well. So Oregon, as far as those wideouts go, for the most part, inexperienced but talented. Ducks have done one heck of a job in recruiting. What started with Bellotti and then Coach Kelly, and now with Coach Mark Helfrich. Offensive line, most of them come back, including the center. That's Hronis Grasu. I think he's the ultimate anchor of that offensive line, and he's probably one of those unsung heroes for that Oregon offense. We hear about the skill players, but Grasu really deserves a lot more attention than he gets. Also, too, back, you got Jake Fisher. And, by the way, one glaring mark for Oregon's offense, would have had everybody back, but left tackle, recently tore his ACL. And losing your left tackle, I don't care, even an offense like Oregon's, that's going to be a big omission for them. That's Tyler Johnstone. Oregon, again, runs that fast-paced offense. Defenses have such a hard time keeping up with. So everybody for that Oregon 11 has to be in sync. So whoever they get to replace, Johnstone with, not only has to be high quality and protect the blind side of Mariota, but also too has to be able to run it at a pretty fast-paced fashion. So that's going to be big. But Oregon, again, returning most of those offensive starters. Defense last year didn't give up very many points, 20.5 per game. They did give up, I think, in the high 300s as far as total yardage. That's misleading, though, because of the fact that Oregon not only scored a lot of points, but they scored so fast. So naturally, the defense is always going to have the ball or going to be playing defense longer than the offense will be at Oregon. That's just a given because Oregon scores in such rapid-fire fashion. 34-plus minutes per game is what Oregon spent on the field. So that really is not a newsflash. The defensive ends are going to be solid for the Ducks. With Eric Armstead, you have him, and also too DeForest Buckner. They're real good. We'll find out how the nose tackle position is going to be. As far as linebackers go, you got a couple of seniors, and that's important. Tony Washington at one linebacker, and the other one you have Derek Malone, your leading tackler. So the front seven, I think, is going to be fine for the Ducks. The secondary, other than one guy, that's a whole other story because you lost 3 defensive backs. But the one guy you have back is another guy, just like Mariota, who could have gone pro but decided to come back. In fact, he would have been a mid-first round pick, and you're going to hear this guy's name a lot. And that is Ifo Ikpe-Olumu. That name is not easy to pronounce, but Ikpe-Olumu, defenses, I'm telling you what, have to really marvel at this guy. I mean, they got to be jealous if they don't have this guy on his team. Offenses, I know, don't like throwing to his side, okay? So really watch for opposing quarterbacks to throw the opposite way of Ikpe-Olumu. He's that good. Schedule for Oregon, most attractive non-conference game of the season nationwide, to me, no question, is the game early in the season. Mark it on your calendar, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be first Saturday of September at home, green versus green. The defending Rose Bowl champion Michigan State Spartans. You're going to have a terrific defense against a terrific offense. We'll see, what wins out in Eugene that day. Rest of the schedule for Oregon, there's a couple of cream puffs as far as the non-conference schedule goes, so they should be okay there. The Pac-12 opener is at Washington State late September. Normally you wouldn't have to worry about that game, but now that Mike Leach is there and they had a surprising year in 2013, went to a bowl game, and they do have the type of offense that could give that secondary for Oregon headaches. So watch out for that game in Pullman. A lot of the big games for the Ducks, if you've seen their schedule, are going to be at home. Washington Huskies, we mentioned Michigan State already. The Stanford Cardinal, of course, that will come up early November, and that team has been an absolute thorn in the side of Duck fans, the Duck team, the Duck program in general. They won in Eugene 2 years ago, and of course last year won in that big top 10 battle. They physically know how to play against Oregon, but Stanford lost a lot of players from a year ago. So if you ever think that Oregon was going to beat Stanford, if they don't do it now, they may never do it. That game in Eugene, which will help. And the other big games too, talking about the matchup later in the year, UCLA, that's going to be October the 11th. I think that'll be the first of 2 matchups, that game at the Rose Bowl, October the 11th. And I think those teams will rematch at Santa Clara, California for the Pac-12 championship. And then there's also a matchup at Oregon State, the Civil War, at the end of the season. Best case scenario, I think this team goes undefeated, best case, because of the fact that their offense is going to be so hard to stop. And defensively, yeah, there's the secondary to worry about other than Ikpe-Olumu, but still look for Oregon. They'll be favored in every game they play in. It's not out of the possibility to run the table. Worst case scenario could be 8-4. That is, if Michigan State's defense proves that defense does beat great offense, and also too, if Stanford continues to have their way with Oregon in that robbery. Plus, UCLA won't be an easy game, and there could be another game that gives them problems on the road, like a Washington or maybe an Oregon State at the end of the year. Likely scenario, I see Oregon finally, I say finally like they've never done it before because they have, but for the first time in 3 years, winning the Pac-12 North, getting over the Stanford hump. I think this time their talent will be too much for Stanford to handle. And I do think, though, even though they'll have a double-digit winning year, I do think they'll get beat one time. I think the UCLA game will trip them up at least the first time they play them at the Rose Bowl, but I think they get revenge on them in the rematch for the Pac-12 title game, which will be held at Santa Clara, California, the new home stadium of the San Francisco 49ers. And I think Oregon, with a 12-1 record and a win over Michigan State, that will boost their out-of-conference strength of schedule to where I think the committee will make them one of the 4 teams to get in the playoff, and who knows what will happen after that. By the way, after my final OU preview, I will pick the 4 teams. Again, I will review the 4 teams that I've picked to go to the playoff and how they'll finish. That's my look at Oregon to win the Pac-12 with a 12-1 record, and who knows what might happen in that playoff. Thanks, everybody.